Margaret Sanger was one of the most well-known people in the reproductive rights movement. She was born on September 14th, 1879 in Corning, New York. She lived in New York the majority of her life. She had 11 siblings, and her parents were Michael and Anne. Michael and Anne were extreme influencers in Margaret's life. Michael, he was extremely political and had great views on women's rights, and he was a big reason Margaret even got into like the Socialist Party. And her mom, her health declined very early in Margaret's life, and it kind of showed her that she wanted to be a nurse in the near future because her mom died of tuberculosis, and Margaret thinks it was because of all the miscarriages she had, because she had around 18 miscarriages. So Margaret went to school at Clavert College at Hudson. Here she went for education, and she ended up getting a job as a teacher, but her teaching job didn't last that long because she had to go home to take care of her sick mother, because her mother got sick right away, and her mother died around 40. And after that, she went to nursing school and got a job at the White Plains. And through the nursing, she saw several women in poverty and suffrage that didn't want to have kids but had got pregnant and had no other choice. William was a man she met and married in 1902. They ended up having 3 children. He was super supportive of her fight against for women's rights, and he would pass out pamphlets that she would create, and he once even got arrested for doing that. They ended up living in Redditch Village in New York. The beginning of her journey, I would say it was a journey for sure, was she joined the Socialist Party, and by doing this, she was able to work entwined with the government, kind of. And she said that the main goal of birth control was to help with poverty, because she said that with all these unwanted pregnancies, it was causing extreme poverty in the area. And she ended up writing a newspaper article monthly, and it was called The Woman Rebel. And she ended up getting arrested for this newspaper article because they weren't supposed to be speaking on obscene material, and birth control wasn't supposed to be spoke on at all. And so she was arrested, and she ended up fleeing the country and went to England and stayed in England for a year until her charges were dropped. And then she returned to the U.S. When she returned, she opened up the first ever birth control clinic. That same day, she had 400 women come into the clinic, and she invited the media and the newspapers, which brought the cops as well, and the cops ended up arrested her and her colleagues. And during this time, it was World War I, so that was all the media talked about. Well, she ended up making the cover of all the media and all the newspapers, and it was a big deal. And then after this, we figured, like, what's next? What's next for her? Well, she wasn't done. She created what we now call Planned Parenthood, which is a huge deal in the U.S. She also got together with the philanthropist Catherine McCormick and the scientist Gregory Pincus, and they invented the first ever birth control. And in 1960, it got FDA approved. And then I want to say the end, because she did pass away in 1966, but it was really just the beginning, because she had created such a good foundation, and it was promoting women's rights movements. And then a lot of people wanted to say that she was racist, and she really actually spoke at a KKK rally trying to get everyone on the same page, she said in some of her writings. And a lot of the racist allegations are still going on. A lot of people want to get her statue, she has a head statue, removed out of a museum. Black ministers got together 14,000 signatures to get her statue removed. And her supporting eugenics, she just wanted to improve future generations. And yes, she did want to keep it in a certain type of people, and this video will explain it a little bit better on Margaret's thoughts, but I'll play this video for you. Well, I thought I was. There we go.
Eugenics to us. Eugenics is the belief system that a person's worth is measured by whether or not they're eugenically fit or unfit. And so eugenicists believe that there's a whole group of people whom they label the unfit, whose value was really less than people whom they thought were genetically superior. So, for example, World War II, when the Nazis used eugenics, they were trying to create a superior race, wiping out thousands of Jews, right? Exactly. So Margaret Sanger then used the eugenics movement to establish Planned Parenthood, which is, I think, what your book is about here. And how did she do that? How did she mold the narrative of eugenics to make it appealing to the entire population? Yeah. So in the 19-teens and 20s and 30s, eugenics was a very popular idea among people who were educated and elite. And so Sanger took this idea that there were some people were fit and some people weren't, and she connected it to population control with the slogan, quality, not quantity. And so her idea was that really this was going to save, the human race, that we were going to breed people who were of a higher, quote-unquote, quality, instead of just having lots of people. So Planned Parenthood uses eugenics.
So basically, you heard what she said. She was trying to do quality over quantity. She didn't. And in one of my quotes that is on the screen, it says that people were supporting having large families, but most of these children, they became feeble-minded. Some became criminals, and it was just getting out of hand. And she said that our civilization has diverted to the maintenance of those who should have never been born. So basically, it's saying that all these kids were, I'm not going to say not wanted, but we're not planned. And Margaret has just came up with birth control, and honestly, it's very appreciated of women all around the world because it gives us more power, I feel, to have control over our bodies, because we already feel lesser than men in this world. And I feel like Margaret has done a great job, and it will leave a lasting impact on future generations.